जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदा नंदन जय ब्रजजनरंजन जय यशोदा नंदन जय ब्रजजनरंजन जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय जय प्रभुपा 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 जय जय प्रभुपा हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय शिल प्रभुपाद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि बोल just 1 minute please Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
just 1 minute just trying to Hare Krishna. Okay, so we are studying from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 15th chapter, and shloka 28 to 35. So, just before starting, take the blessings of the Guru. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Sa Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminti Namani Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshita Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Prabhu, your video is off. If you want, you can switch it on.
Prabhu, I prefer to have it off.
Achha.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
We are studying from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 15th chapter, shloka number 28 to 35. Shlokas Just before going to shloka 28, I just wanted to read the translation of shloka number 27. And there were some important points which I was, studying when we went ahead with this Bhagavad Gita 10th canto, and there was a shloka which I was reading. So it so happened that there are so much important points on that shloka of Bhagavad Gita. So that was connected to this, and that's the reason I wanted to read the translation of shloka number 27. And the translation goes like this. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Now I am attracted to those instructions imparted to me by the personality of Godhead, Govinda, because they are impregnated with instructions for relieving the burning heart in all circumstances of time and space. And the relevant shloka of Srimad Bhagavad Gita was Bhagavad Gita and chapter 10 and shloka number 1, which is Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Bhuya eva mahabhao shunu me paramam vacha yatte aham priyam. Now here he says yatte aham priya manaya vakshami hita kamaya. Now, if we see the shloka, there are so many important points in that particular shloka which are connected to this. And I was hearing the, what we call the lectures from Jita Mitra Das, who is one of the disciples of from our congregation, and he is based basically in Delhi, a senior disciple, and he was addressing on this shloka, beautifully addressed on these points and how we are connecting with this, especially this particular shloka of 27, and then how it goes ahead with 28 and rest of the shloka. So I just mentioned few of the points here. Jita Mitra Das, he says that Lord is addressing first in that shloka in the Bhagavad Gita 10.1, Bhagavan is addressing Arjuna as Mahabhao. Now we know that Mahabhao means having, very big hands or big limbs, and they are powerful. So he mentions that in that particular class in Mahabharata, Bhishma Parva, chapter number 114, there is a description of 10th day of the Kurukshetra Yuddha, which explains the valor of Arjun. He defeated Maharathis like Salya, Kripacharya, Shusharma, Jaidrath, Chitrasen, Vikarna, then and many more. He did that on the strength of his arms, and so Krishna is addressing Arjuna as Mahabhava. Now, Krishna tells Arjuna to listen tat shrunu. Here also, the word, if you see, it's mentioned shrunu. Shrunu me paramam vacha. Okay, now here he's saying shrunu to his instructions. That means Krishna is telling Arjuna to listen to his instructions. In this shloka, the importance of hearing is emphasized. People in general are not that qualified, but if they get in touch with a qualified person in disciplic succession and listen with faith, then they can get out of this material world and go back home, back to Godhead. So in the shloka, Krishna is using Priyaman. Now, what is Priyaman for Arjuna? So another word is Hita. There are two words in this particular shloka of Bhagavad Gita 10.1. So Priyaman is made up of two words, Priya and Man. Priya means Sneha, and Man means one who possesses a special quality. Hence, Priyaman means one who possesses Sneha. Hence, Krishna means to say that, Arjuna, you love me so much. That is one way. In the previous chapter, Krishna says that you have become my devotee, offer your obeisances, and because of your love towards me has increased. One is envious, cannot hear these instructions. They think why Krishna is saying all these things. But you are Priyaman, Arjun, and to such a person I disclose, divulge the most intimate secret and feel happy. Now here, the most important point here comes in, the most important moral of this shloka is word hita, yani for the benefit. So if the listener has full faith, see how important it has been explained. if the listener has full faith unto the speaker, and the speaker is sincerely thinking benefit of the listener, then the instructions of the speakers are inscribed permanently in the heart of the listener. So, which means सुनने वाले की वक्ता के प्रति श्रद्धा और वक्ता के अंदर सुनने वाले के लिए हित, तो क्या होता है, तो जो जो वक्ता कहता है वो सुनने वाले के हृदय के अंदर वो छप जाते हैं, वो इंस्क्राइब हो जाते हैं. Those are inscribed in the heart of the listener. So whenever we think about talking, we should always think hit of the listener, and the listener should have the faith in the speaker. So here, now how this has been connected. So if you now listen to this shloka, the translation of shloka number 27, which says that now I am attracted to those instructions imparted to me by personality of Godhead, because they are impregnated with instructions for relieving the burning heart in all circumstances of time and space. So now we'll go ahead with the shloka, which is 28, and we see how what Arjuna is saying. Now, what Bhagwan has given the instructions to him, and he is remembering those instructions and what is happening. So Sutavacha here says that, Sutavacha, which is now Bhagavatam 1:15-28. So Sutavacha, evam chintayato jishno Krishna pada sarorupam sauhardena gadhena santasit vimalamati. Can somebody read the translation and the purpose, please?
Yes, Prabhu. Sut Goswami said, thus being deeply absorbed in thinking of the instructions of the Lord, which were imparted in the great intimacy of friendship, and in thinking of his lotus feet, Arjun's mind became pacified and free from all material contamination. Since the Lord is absolute, deep meditation upon him is as good as yogic trance. The Lord is non different from his name, form, quality, pastimes, entourage, and specific actions. Arjun began to think of the Lord's instructions to him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Only those instructions began to eliminate the tinges of material contamination in the mind of Arjun. The Lord is like the sun, and the sun's appearance means immediate dissipation of darkness or ignorance, and the Lord's appearance within the mind of the devotee can at once drive away the miserable material effects. Lord Chaitanya has therefore recommended constant chanting of the name of the Lord for protection from all contamination of the material world. The feeling of separation from the Lord is undoubtedly painful to the devotee, but because it is in connection with the Lord, it has a specific transcendental effect which pacifies the heart. Feelings of separation are also sources of transcendental bliss, and they are never comparable to contaminated material feelings of separation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So yesterday we were like there was a class in on Bhagavatam, in which a very important point came in, and the important point is that once you have pida, once you have once a person is in distress, once a jiva is in distress, so distress is basically very helpful. Distress is helpful because there is an advertisement which we usually hear, daag achhe hain, that a common thing which is coming for a detergent powder, where the speaker says that daag achhe hain. So even the distress is good. So how one of the lectures which was explained, in which it is explained, this distress, when a person is in distress, he remembers Lord, because 4 kind of people have been mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, and one of the person is that one who is in distress. So distress is good. So a similar kind of here, Arjuna is in a situation where he is feeling the pangs of separation from Krishna, but that also is good. So here, if you see, feeling of separation are also source of transcendental bliss, and they are never comparable to contaminated material feelings of separation. If constantly your mind is engaged in thinking of the lotus feet of Krishna, thinking begins from the lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada on this particular, shloka, Srila Prabhupada mentions that, whenever we go and have the darshan of the Lord, we should start having the darshans right from the lotus feet of the Lord. Then you go gradually up. First your eyes should be completely focused on the feet of the Lord, lotus feet of the Lord. And you cannot just suddenly see the Lord's face. You shouldn't see the face of the Lord immediately. You should start right from the lotus feet. And in the second canto, you'll find we have to think of Krishna's lotus feet. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto and second canto are the lotus feet of Krishna. Prabhupada has been mentioning, we have heard from many, many acharyas, that the first and second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are the lotus feet of the Lord. Then you gradually rise, then you go ahead and start reading. And this is one of the reasons Prabhupada used to mention that don't just jump onto the 10th canto, or you have to first understand. First, you have to have the darshan of the Lord right from his lotus feet. At any time, at any moment, if you immediately meditate, you will see that lotus feet of Krishna. That is transcendental meditation. Then gradually rise to his smiling face. Now, the smiling face, Srila Prabhupada mentions is the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Arjuna was disturbed in so many ways, but as soon as he began to think of Krishna's lotus feet, Sarorupa, Krishna Pada Sarorupa, immediately everything became pacified. So this word is mentioned, Sarorupa, Saroruha, Krishna Pada Saroruha. Immediately everything becomes pacified. Everything becomes very, very, a person gets pacified. Now, this is the process. This is the transcendental consciousness of transcendental meditation. Immediately, without any delay for a moment, you feel completely pacified. Therefore, Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita. The Prabhupada mentions in Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? It's 18.65. Man mana moho baddho, madhya jimmam namaskuru. Always man mana, always engage your mind in thinking about me, thinking about Lord Krishna. So, Prabhupada always mentions that. So this shloka, we understand. And if you read the translation one more time, Suta Goswami said that thus deeply absorbed in thinking of the instructions of Lord, which were imparted in great intimacy. So we saw the shloka number 10.1. We heard about it. And we now know that, what kind of instructions Arjuna had got. And Arjuna is remembering those, and Arjuna's mind becomes pacified after hearing the spiritual instructions which have been given to Arjuna by Krishna. He becomes pacified. So now we go to shloka number 29. Vasudevangri anudhyana parimhrita ramhasa bhaktya nirmathi tyata sesha Kashaya Dishano Arjuna. So can you somebody read the translation and purport, please?
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Arjuna's constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna rapidly increased his devotion, and as a result, all the trash in his thoughts subsided. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Material desires in the mind are the trash of material contamination. By such contamination, the living being is faced with so many compatible and incompatible things that discourage the very existence of spiritual identity. Birth after birth, the conditioned soul is entrapped with so many pleasing and displeasing elements, which are all false and temporary. They accumulate due to our reactions to material desires. But when we get in touch with the transcendental Lord in his variegate energies by devotional service, the naked form of all material desires become manifest, and the intelligence of the living being is pacified in its true color. As soon as Arjuna turned this attention towards the instruction of the Lord, as they are inculcated in the Bhagavad Gita, his true color of eternal association with the Lord became manifest, and thus he felt freed from all material contamination. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, we are not able to hear you. Prabhu, I think your audio has some problem. That icon is missing against your name. Or maybe you can't even hear me as well. Okay, he has disconnected now. We'll just give him 1 minute. He has joined again. Okay. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We were wondering what happened. Okay, Prabhu. You can
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You can continue, Prabhu.
Okay. So now here also, if it's connected to the previous shlokas, material desires in the mind are the thrash of material contamination. So the mind will always think, and when whatever goes into the mind, that comes out. So there is a acronym for that. They said GIGO, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, or good in, good out, or God in, God out. So what happens? Whatever is that, if garbage is there, we hear about all these material things. So only whatever we will utter is all garbage. So garbage in and garbage out. So here it is mentioned, material desires in the mind are thresh of material contamination. By such contamination, the living being is faced with so many compatible and incompatible things that discourage the very existence of spiritual identity. So once you are thinking about the material aspects, material things, you will never, there are so many topics. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's mentioned that there are so many topics on the material level that a person goes on talking, and he hears about those topics, and then he utters about those topics. And we can see the example of the people who are reading the newspapers every day. If they have read the newspapers, first they have accumulated all the garbage, and then they go out and talk about that in the public. Oh, have you read this? Oh, Sachin had made that much score, that Virat Kohli was out on duck. This is, so they have already read the garbage, and they are talking about the garbage when they are meeting the people. So garbage in and garbage out, and with that they are totally occupied, and they feel that they are very happy. As soon as Arjuna turned his attention towards the instructions of Lord, now here the instruction, again the same thing is connected to the shloka number 27, as they are inculcated in Bhagavad Gita, his true color of eternal association. Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Nitya Krishna Das. As mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, association with the Lord became manifest, and thus he felt freed from all material contaminations. So if you want to get out of the anxieties, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, so material existence means full of anxieties. This is sum and substance of material existence. Everyone is full of anxieties, not only humans. You can see the animals, bird, beast, everyone. That is a symptom of material existence, anxieties. So spiritual life means anxiety less, which is a Vaikuntha. That's the reason it's mentioned. There is no kuntha, there is no knots, there are no tying ups, no anxieties. So, so it's mentioned that spiritual life is what? It is anxiety less. This is the difference between material life and spiritual life. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Atma becomes prasanna when it's in the state of Brahma Bhuta. Why should I suffer so many things? That is a jubilation. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. Here in the material world, people are full of anxieties because they have got hankering. I want this, I want that, and that is lamentation. That they possess, if somebody possesses something and it is lost, then he's distressed. And if he doesn't have, he wants that, so he's in distress. So he's hankering, or if it is lost, then he's in distress. So there is always an anxiety. So when the Srila Prabhupada mentions in one of his lectures, then when Prahlad Maharaj was inquired by his father, what nice things have you studied, my dear boy, in your school? So, Prahlad Maharaj replies, my dear father, the best education I have received, how to become anxiety less. That's all. Tat sadhu manye asura varya dehinam. Not only for me, but for everyone. But you will not understand, my dear father, because you are a demon. That's what Srila Prabhu mentions in one of his lectures. He said that when Prahlad Maharaj was asked by his father, what have you learned in the school? So he says, I have learned anxiety less, how to become anxiety less. And not only for me, it's for everyone. Because that's the nature of a pure devotee. He'll always think about others as well. So, and Bhakti Vinod Thakur also says, Kita Janma ho yatha tu adasa, bahir mukha brahma jane nahi mora asha. Bhakti Vinod Thakur says that I want to become a kita, an insect, but I want to be in the association of devotees, and I want to become your das, your servant. I don't want to be not remembering you, O Krishna, and become even Brahma. Even if you make me Brahma in my next life, I don't want to become Brahma. I want to become a kit, but be a devotee and remember you always. Not to become at the level of Brahmaji and be Bahirmukha, like, against you or not remembering you. So this is what is mentioned. So we go to the shloka number 115-13. So a wonderful shloka. All these shlokas, first two cantos, they are worth reading, and they are worth reading with Srila Prabhupada's lectures or hearing Srila Prabhupada lectures. Amazing. Once you hear these lectures or once you hear these shlokas, they are really amazing. There are so many hidden, things in the Srimad Bhagavatam. They are nectarian. Now here this shloka says that Geetam Bhagavata Jnanam Yat Tat Sangrama Murdhani Kala Karma Tamorudham Punar Advagatat Adhyagamat Prabhu. Can somebody read the translations, please?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that, Prabhu. Okay. Translation. Because of the Lord's pastimes and activities, and because of his absence, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by the personality of Godhead. But factually, this was not the case. And again, he became Lord of his senses. Purport. A conditioned soul is enwrapped in his fruitive activities by the force of eternal time. But the Supreme Lord, when he incarnates on the earth, he is not influenced by Kala or the material conception of past, present, and future. The activities of the Lord are eternal. They are manifestations of his Atma Maya or internal potency. All pastimes or activities of the Lord are spiritual in nature, but to the layman, they appear to be on the same level with the material activities. It so appeared that Arjuna and the Lord were engaged in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, as the other party was also engaged. But factually, the Lord was executing his mission of incarnation and association with his eternal friend Arjuna. Therefore, such apparently material activities of Arjuna did not drive him away from his transcendental position, but on the contrary, revived his consciousness of the songs of the Lord as he sang them personally. The revival of consciousness is assured by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 18:65 as follows. Man manaba mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evasyasi satyam te pratijani priyosi me. One should think of the Lord always. The mind should not forget him. One should become a devotee of the Lord and offer obeisances unto him. One who lives in that fashion becomes undoubtedly endowed with the blessings of the Lord by achieving the shelter of his lotus feet. There is nothing to doubt about this eternal truth, but Arjuna was his confidential friend. The secret was disclosed to him. Arjuna had no desires to fight with his relatives, but he fought for the mission of the Lord. He was always engaged in the execution of his mission only, and therefore, after the Lord's departure, he remained in the same transcendental position, even though it appeared that he forgot all instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore adjust the activities of the lives in pace with the mission of the Lord, and by doing this, one is sure to return back home, back to Godhead. This is the highest perfection of life.
Hare Krishna. Now here it is explained. If we see the shloka, there is a word which is mentioned, Geetam Bhagavata Gnanam. Now, what is that? So, but Gita means spoken by. The Gita means Bhagavad Gita was spoken by. It was spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. Now, Arjuna said that this science was spoken by Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we read Bhagavad Gita, then we must follow the version of Arjuna, because Arjuna directly heard Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means we have to follow the instructions which have been given by Srila Prabhupada, because it is Bhagavad Gita as it is. And he says that science, Geetam Bhagavata. So why there should be an interpretation? There are so many interpretations, different interpretations. People, they have their own ideas, which they include in Bhagavad Gita's, different kind of Bhagavad Gita. So here, Srila Prabhupada mentions that it has to be as per the instructions which have been heard by Arjuna from Krishna, exactly in the same manner. Not that it's the writer, he writes a Bhagavad Gita and he gives his own interpretation. So if you want to understand Bhagavad Gita, then we must understand the way as a person who directly heard from him. This is called parampara. Srila Prabhupada emphasizes on this. So Srila Prabhupada in his lecture on this particular shloka here, Srila Prabhupada also mentions about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult. He says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we cannot understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly. That is not possible. We have to understand through the Goswamis. Therefore, you will find in Chaitanya Charitamrita, at the end of every chapter, the writer says, Rupa Raghunatha Pade Yar Asha Chaitanya Charitam Rita Kahe Krishna Dasa. It is by the mercy, that this is the process. He does not say that I have understood Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly. No, that is not understanding. That is foolishness. You cannot understand what is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I am that Krishna Das Kaviraj, who is always under the subordination of Goswamis. This is the parampara system. The Bhagavad Gita is not different from Krishna. It is not different from Krishna. When you hear Bhagavad Gita, you are directly hearing from Krishna, because Krishna is non-different. Krishna is absolute. So here we have heard about that. Now we go on to the shloka number 31. Vishoko Brahma Sampatta Sanchinna Dvaita Samshaya Lina Prakriti Nair Gunayat Alingatvat Asambhava. Can somebody read the translation and the purport, please?
Yes, Prabhu. Because of his possessing spiritual assets, the doubts of duality were completely cut off. Thus, he was freed from the three modes of material nature and placed in transcendence. There was no longer any chance of his becoming entangled in the birth and death, for he was freed from material form. Doubts of duality begin from the misconception of the material body, which is accepted as the self by less intelligent persons. The most foolish part of our ignorance is our identifying this material body with the self. Everything in relations with the body is ignorantly accepted as our own. Doubts are due to misconceptions of myself and mine. In other words, my body, my relatives, my property, my wife, my children, my wealth, my country, my community, and hundreds of thousands of similar illusionary contemplations cause bewilderment for the conditioned soul. By assimilating the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, one is sure to be released from such from such bewilderment, because real knowledge is knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, is everything, including ourselves. Everything is a manifestation of his potency as part and parcel. The potency of and the potent are non-different, so the conception of duality is at once mitigated by attainment of perfect knowledge. As soon as Arjun took up the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, expert as he was, he could at once eradicate the material conception of the Lord Krishna, his eternal friend. He could realize that the Lord was still present before him by his instruction, by his form, by his pastimes, and by his qualities, and everything else related to him. He could realize that Lord Krishna, his friend, was still present before him by his transcendental presence in different non dual energies, and there was no question of attainment of the association of the Lord by another change of body under the influence of time and space. By attainment of absolute knowledge, one can be in association with the Lord constantly, even in the present life, simply by hearing, chanting, thinking of, and worshipping the Supreme Lord. One can see Him, one can feel His presence even in the present life, simply by understanding the Advaya Gyan Lord, Ade Gyan Lord, or the Absolute Lord, through the process of devotional services, which begins with hearing about him. Lord Chaitanya says that simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can at once wash off the dust on the mirror of pure consciousness, and as soon as the dust is removed, one is at once free from all material conditions. To become free from material conditions means to liberate the soul. As soon as one is, therefore, situated in the absolute knowledge, his material conception of the life is removed, or he emerges from a false conception of the life. Thus, the function of the pure soul is revived in spiritual realization. This practical realization of the living being is made possible due to his becoming free from the reaction of the three modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. By the grace of God, a pure devotee is at once raised and to the place of the absolute, and there is no chance of the devotees becoming materially entangled again in the conditioned life. One is not able to feel the presence of the Lord in all circumstances until one is endowed with the required transcendental vision made possible by devotional service prescribed in the revealed scriptures. Arjuna had attained this stage long before on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and when he apparently felt the presence of the Lord, he at once took shelter of the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, and thus again he was placed in his original position. This is the position of Vishoka, or the stage of being freed from all grief and anxiety. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. See this full purport. So many things have been very clearly specified how we are entangled, why we are in anxiety, why there is a duality, how to get out of this duality, and just be in the same position as Krishna, as Arjuna, after hearing the Krishna's instructions, and we become in the situation of Vishoka, that is no Shoka. So how is that possible? So everything is so nicely explained by Srila Prabhupada. And just reminds me that, see, doubts due to misconceptions of myself and mine, in other words, my body, my relatives, my property, my wife, my children, my wealth, my country, my community, and hundreds and thousands of similar illusionary contemplation. So, like, which I was just referring to one of the shlokas which have been quite, what you can say, repetitively said. There is a shloka which says that asanam me, vasanam me, jayo me, bandhu vargo me, iti me kurvanam, kala vrako hanti purusha ajam. So this is, asanam me. Asanam me means food. This food is me. Asanam me, it's mine. Vasanam me, where I stay, that place where I'm staying, that is mine. The place is asanam me, vasanam me, jayo me, this jaidad is mine. Bandhu vargo me, my bandhu bandhav, my family, my relatives. Asanam me, vasanam me, jayo me, bandhu vargo me. Iti me kurvanam. He's by always be saying that my, this is mine, this is mine, this. Iti me kurvanam, kala vrako hanti purusha ajam. So kal means the death. Kala vrako. Vrako means the wolf. Kala vrako hanti. Hanti means he comes and takes it away. Purusha ajam. Purusha. Purusha means male and ajam means goat. So what does this reflects? It says that, when the goat is going for, grazing on the grounds in the jungle, it says asana, like it's a human being, it's a jiva. It says asanam me, this food is mine. So it is compared with when a person says that, jiva says that asanam me, vasanam me, jayo me, bandhu vargo me, iti me kurvanam. He says everything is mine. Iti me kurvanam kala vrakohanti ar purushajam. When the death comes, it comes and it takes everything from you. How it takes that? In the same way as that he goat, the he goat, is saying my, and it goes in the grazing of the jungle, and there is a wolf, Kala Vrako. Wolf is waiting just like Kal, and it comes and grabs the goat and takes it for his meal. So in the same way, Kala Vrako Hanti Purushajam. We have been saying that we have this concept, illusionary concept of, everything belongs to me. We go on accumulating, but one day the death will come and lay its icy hand on us and take away everything from us. So that's was the shloka which came to my mind. And similar thing is that, by the grace of Lord, a pure devotee is at once raised to the place of absolute, and there is no chance of devotee becoming materially entangled again in conditioned life. So it also reminds me of the this Gajendra, moksha. And Gajendra, what is Gajendra doing? Gajendra, first and foremost thing, when he's fixed in when he's trapped, or when he's been caught by the crocodile in the lake, he's using his own powers. He's trying to, and why he's thinking that way? Because he is Gajendra. He was feeling that he is, his name is Gajendra, means Gaj. Gaj means elephant, and Indra. In the family of elephants, he was like as powerful as Indra. So he was trying to pull himself out from the trap of the crocodile, but he was not able to do that. At that time, he was seeing. Before that, he was enjoying the life. There were so many mates, she elephants, and the kids. They were on the banks. Even they were trying to help him out, but gradually they saw that it's not possible to relieve him from these pangs. So what they did, they gradually went off. So similarly, nobody will come to the rescue. It is all on us. And we have to take the initiative and be in the midst of the devotees so that they will make us remind and we can, take to bhakti. So this is the position of Vishoka, a person who is now, how can you become the Vishoka without any shoka? So that also is explained in the shloka itself. By the grace of Lord, a pure devotee is at once raised to the place of absolute, and there is no chance of devotees becoming materially entangled again in this conditioned life. So it's by the grace of Lord. Without the grace of a Lord, a pure devotee is at once raised. That means we have to first become a pure devotee. To become a pure devotee, we have to take the instructions which have been given by another pure devotee, how to serve the Lord in bhakti. Then only we will get that the purity in our heart, and we can become we can raise to such a position that we will never become materially entangled again in this condition. So that is just for this shloka, and there is
Prabhu,
another one.
some two queries are there, small.
Yes.
There is
Can you
a
just take
sentence in
that?
the purport. Real knowledge is knowledge that the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, Vasudev, Lord Krishna, is everything. That is okay, including one's self. What exactly?
Okay, now as soon as let me just come to that point, and Lord Chaitanya says it is word.
Just little lower.
Okay, 1 minute. So everything is
Come 3-4 lines down.
Yeah.
After this, because
Three,
real
four,
knowledge is knowledge that the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, Vasudev, Lord Krishna, is everything, including oneself. आत्मा के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं प्रभु.
हाँ, मतलब even that it is out about just 1 minute because I am referring to my computer here. This is on 1 minute.
And this is what I exactly.
1:15:31, right?
Yeah.
In
नहीं आप
that,
सही ये अंडरलाइन किया हुआ है प्रभु.
हाँ, 1 minute. By assimilating the instruction, here. Such bewildered because real knowledge is knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, Lord Krishna is everything, including oneself, including us, including our, we is everything, including oneself. Our Atma is also, a part of Krishna,
Okay, Prabhu. And then their word uses Ade Gyan.
That also is explained, if you say 1 minute. Knowledge, can you just highlight that also?
It is already highlighted, I think, Prabhu. थोड़ा और ऊपर जाइए.
Lord or the absolute Lord. His presence, even in this present life, simply by understanding that the Lord is absolute. Advaya Jnana, Lord or absolute Lord, through the process of devotional service. So you can understand that Lord He's the absolute. How? By process of bhakti.
Okay.
And,
thank you.
and that also, how it begins? It begins with hearing. So how we can know that the Lord is absolute? By constantly hearing about Lord, His pastimes. And then further, if you see, further that's mentioned by Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya says that simply by chanting the holy name of Lord, one can at once wash off the dirt of the. That means the contamination is where? Contamination is in our mind. Contamination is there because of the duality, as mentioned in the first line itself. Doubts and duality. Because of the doubts and duality, that we are contaminated, and that contamination can be removed, can be wiped out. How? By being in the association of the devotees, by hearing about Lord Krishna, and by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we go on to shloka number 1. 1 minute. I'm just going to 1:15:32. Nisamya Bhagavan Margam Samstham yadu kulasya cha swapathaya matim chakre nivrittatma yudhishthira. Can somebody read the translations, please, and the purport?
Hare Krishna. Translation. Upon hearing the Lord Krishna's returning to his abode, and upon understanding the end of the Yadu dynasty's earthly manifestation, Maharaja Yudhishthira decided to go back home, back to Godhead. Purport. Maharaja Yudhishthira also turned his attention to the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita after hearing about the Lord's departure from the vision of earthly people. He began to deliberate on the Lord's way of appearance and departure. The mission of the Lord's appearance and disappearance in the moral universe is completely dependent on his supreme will. He is not forced to appear or disappear by any superior energy, as the living beings appear and disappear, being forced by the laws of nature. Whenever the Lord likes, he can appear himself from anywhere and everywhere without disturbing his appearance and disappearance in any other place. He is like the sun. The sun appears and disappears on its own accord at any place without disturbing its presence in other places. The sun appears in the morning in India without disappearing from the Western Hemisphere. The sun is present everywhere and anywhere, all over the solar system. But it so appears that in a particular place, the sun appears in the morning and also disappears at some fixed time in the evening. The time limitation even of the sun is no concern, but so what to speak of the Supreme Lord, who is the creator and controller of the sun. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that anyone who factually understands the transcendental appearance and disappearance of the Lord by his inconceivable energy becomes liberated from the loss of birth and death and is placed in the eternal spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets are. There, such liberated persons can eternally live without the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. In the spiritual sky, the Lord and those who are eternally engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord are all eternally young because there is no old age and disease and there is no death. Because there is no death, there is no birth. It is concluded, therefore, that simply by understanding the Lord's appearance and disappearance in truth, one can attain the perfectional stage of eternal life. Therefore, Maharaja Yudhishthira also began to consider going back to Godhead. The Lord appears on the earth or any other moral planet along with his associates who live with him eternally, and the members of the Yadu family who were engaged in supplementing the pastimes of the Lord are no other than his eternal associates, and so also Maharaja Yudhishthira and his brothers and mother, etc. Since the appearance and disappearance of the Lord and his eternal associates are transcendental, one should not be bewildered by the external features of appearance and disappearance. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. So here again, see appearance and disappearance of Lord. For a materially, material person, he will say that okay, the Lord. First and foremost thing, there when Krishna was there, he was physically present. Only few of them they knew that he is God, he is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rest of them they were seeing him, but in spite of they seeing him, they were just considering him as an a normal human being. Now here it's mentioned, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, so hearing all the details, how Krishna has gone back to his abode and how the Yadu dynasty was destroyed by fighting among themselves, so naturally, Yudhishthira Maharaj was very sober and advanced. What to do next? Everyone should think that. The Yadu dynasty, they belong directly to Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nobody could conquer them, but still they were all finished. And what was the reason, how they finished, and what was the reason they were finished? Nobody could kill them, nobody could finish them off, but they were assigned a task by the Lord. So when the Lord came, they came along with the Lord to do this Leela, and when the Leela was finished, Lord made an arrangement to take them back. Lord never wanted them to be with to be in the material world. So what he made such an arrangement that these all who had come along with him to perform the Leela, they went back with him to his abode. So everyone should take care that now Srila Prabhupada make a very important point in his in the lecture for this particular shloka. He said that everybody, from this, what you should learn, you should always learn that what should be the next step, what should I do? Now we have already got the birth, so what is the next step, what we should do? So if we don't want to get into this material world and be in this 4 stages of birth, old age, death and disease, what we have to do? We have to find out a way so that we go out of this material world. And Srila Prabhupada used to mention, this world, this material world is just like a toilet. You have to finish your work. You're not here to stay for forever. So what you have to do, come here, finish your job. And usually a person does not sit in the toilet for long. He has to finish his job and finish the work and go. So this material world is just like a toilet. Finish this work here and go back. Where we have to go back to the place where we belong. So everyone should take care of that. After all, we have to give up this body, estate, and whatever we possess. So this is what same we have mentioning. And asanam me, vasanam me, jayo me, bandhu vargo me. Everything will be here. Mrityu will take. So here, Srila Prabhupada also quotes that if you don't give it up at the time of death, you have to give it up, as it's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 10.34. Mrityu sarva haraschaham. Mrityu will take it away. So what is the soberness? What is, that means you have to make up your mind that everything, whatever is here, this will be left out and Mrityu will be there who will take it as. So first and foremost thing, what we should know that what is our aim. We have to go home back to Krishna, where there is, as I say that, there is a ticket which is, point of no return. You have to go there. It's one-way ticket. You go there and stay there forever. So for that, you have to put you have to do all the prayers. So this is the, but then Srila Prabhu also mentions that why? Because you are eternal. Because you are eternal, but because of the duality, you're thinking that you are body. If you're thinking you're a body, then you are suffering all this. But if you think that you are a soul, that means then why? Then the next question comes: why you are suffering? Why this? You have got this body to suffer because of the duality, because of your wishes, because of your desires. So this is how Srila Prabhupada is explaining, and then he also gives an example that you have from the Shastra that you are experiencing that I was a child, I was a boy, I was a young man. So my body, childhood body, boyhood body, youth body is gone. This body is not that body. Nobody can say I have got a different body, but I know that I had childhood body, I had a boyhood body. It's the same body. It's, there are changes which is happening. It's very simple. Why people cannot understand it? Very simple. So Srila Prabhupada also emphasizes on that. So now our consciousness is immortal. Consciousness or the mortal consciousness that is to be seen. I am absorbed in the thought of this mortal consciousness. This is my country. Again, he repeats the same thing that, people they have, and he's emphasizing, Srila Prabhupada in his lectures, he's emphasizing again, time and again, that we have to get out of this thing that this belongs to me, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. And this only we can realize, or we can understand upon constantly hearing about Krishna and thinking that he is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now we'll go to the next shloka, 1:15:33. प्रसपि अनुश्रुतय ध्यानं यादोतिनं नासं यादुनं भगवद्गतिं च ताम् एकान्त भक्त्या भगवती अधोक्षजे निवेशितं तात्मो परमं संश्रुते. Can somebody read the translation and the purport? I'll read it. Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, anybody, if suppose somebody wants to read it.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can I read?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mataji.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ji. Jai Srila Prabhupada ji. Kunti, after overhearing Arjuna's telling of the end of Yadu dynasty and disappearance of Lord Krishna, engaged in the devotional service of the transcendental personality of Godhead with full attention and thus gained release from the course of material existence. Purport. The setting of the sun does not mean the end of the sun. It means that the sun is out of our sight. Similarly, the end of the mission of the Lord on a particular planet or universe only means that he is out of our sight. The end of the Yadu dynasty also does not mean that it is annihilated. It disappears along with the Lord out of our sight. As Maharaja Yudhishthira decided to prepare to go back to Godhead, so also Kunti decided, and thus she fully engaged herself in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, which guarantees one a passport for going back to Godhead after quitting this present material body. The beginning of devotional service to the Lord is the beginning of spiritualizing the present body, and thus an unalloyed devotee of the Lord loses all material contact in the present body. The abode of the Lord is not a myth, as is thought by the unbelievers or ignorant people, but one cannot reach there by any material means like a Sputnik or space capsule. But one can certainly reach there after leaving this present body, and one must prepare himself to go back to Godhead by practicing devotional service that guarantees a passport for going back to Godhead, and Kunti adopted it. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Right. Thank you, Mataji. So nicely it is explained here, which I already mentioned in my previous, on the previous shloka. The Yadu dynasty was, the end of the Yadu dynasty does not mean that it is annihilated. It disappears along with the Lord out of our sight. So it went back, because it was Lord's arrangement. As Maharaj, and then it said that Maharaj Yudhishthira decided to prepare because he was also an elevated soul. He also decided to go back home, back to Godhead. And so also Kunti decided. So when we read about Kunti Maharani's, there are two shlokas which are wonderful shlokas of Kunti's city where she mentions, and we can see that devotion. Just let me get to my points here. There was I was just hearing a few of the lectures on, as I mentioned, on the Gajendra Moksha. So there, Kunti Maharani is praying. So what basically is praying? So there are a few points which I want to share. Now, here, I was hearing the Sarvabhaum Prabhu's lecture on what is prayers, on prarthana. What is prarthana? So प्रार्थना का अर्थ क्या है? सर्वभौम प्रभु he is mentioning प्रार्थना का अर्थ है भगवान से रोज बातें करना. Now हम जो बातें करेंगे तो हमारी जो लैंग्वेज होगी या हमारे जो शब्द होंगे वो जो अप्रोप्रिएट नहीं होंगे, तो हम क्या करेंगे? इसलिए क्या करना चाहिए? तो सर्वभौम प्रभु बताते हैं कि इतनी सारी स्तुतियां हैं भागवतम में, उन स्तुतियों के अंदर इतने अच्छे जो है श्लोक बताए गए हैं, उन श्लोकों को आप कंठस्थ करें. तो यानी उन्होंने जैसे बताया कि प्रार्थना कैसे करें, तो प्रार्थना का मतलब क्या है? तो प्रार्थना का मतलब रोज भगवान से बातें करें. और ये एक पावरफुल माध्यम है जिससे मतलब प्रार्थना क्या है? एक ऐसा माध्यम है जिससे अजीत कौन है? भगवान है, जिसे कभी हम जीत नहीं सकते, मगर प्रार्थना एक ऐसी जो पावरफुल माध्यम है जिसे अजीत को भी जीता जा सकता है. तो ये सर्वभौम प्रभु बताते हैं. तो उसी संदर्भ के अंदर आया था कि प्रार्थना से हम कुछ भी उपलब्ध जो है कर सकते हैं. तो मतलब करना क्या है इसके अंदर? तो प्रार्थना का एग्जाम्पल उसने बताया श्रीमद् भागवतम के अंदर जो है 10th कैंटो के अंदर 49 ये चैप्टर है 11 श्लोका कुंती महारानी की मतलब करती है, स्तुति करती है. वो कहती है, हे कृष्णा हे महान योगी हे परमात्मा तथा ब्रह्मांड के रक्षक, हे गोविंद मेरी रक्षा कीजिए, मैं आपकी शरण में हूँ, मैं तथा मेरे पुत्र दुख से अभिभूत हैं। सो ये मतलब जब हम इसका ट्रांसलेशन है, तो कुंती महारानी ने प्रार्थना की तो उसका परिणाम क्या हो गया, उसके परिणाम के अंदर हमको क्या मिलता है? तो भगवान कुरुक्षेत्र के युद्ध में पांडवों के पक्ष से लड़े, उसके बाद पांडवों को सब विपदाओं से उन्होंने बचाया। That means he saved from all distresses, all the Pandavas, he saved them from them. He established the dharma, and at there are so many उसके अंदर के उसका results of कुंती महारानी's प्रार्थना. So उन्होंने उत्तरा के गर्भ में स्थित परीक्षित महाराज को भी बचाया। तो फिर प्रार्थना कैसे करनी चाहिए? This also is explained in a very nice way in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. It says that अन्याभिलाषित शून्यम ज्ञान कर्मादि अनावृतम अनुकूलेन कृष्णानु शीलनम भक्तिर उत्तम। किसी भी भौतिक इच्छा बिना करनी चाहिए भक्तिमयी प्रार्थना भगवान के गुणगान के लिए और उनका सानिध्य प्राप्त करने के लिए, which means that you have to do the prayers not for any material gain or material desires, but you have to do this prarthana or prayers for association. First and foremost thing, you have to glorify the Lord and then ask for his association. You know, you want to have an association with the Lord himself. तो ये वहां पर आए। अगर प्रार्थना भौतिक इच्छा के लिए है तो वो प्रार्थना आपकी भक्ति के लिए सहायक नहीं होगी। Whenever you are doing a प्रार्थना or you are asking some Lord for any material desires, that will never, that will never help you. That will, it will not help you for in your devotional service. It will only ensure that your material desires are fulfilled, that too according to the mercy of the Lord. And at the same time, you will be entangled in the material world, birth, death, old age, and disease. So we have the best example of Hiranyakashipu. He was doing austerities, he was doing prarthana, but what was his prarthana for? His prarthana was for all the material desires. So in the end, there is in the Gajendra Leela, it's mentioned that bhautik ichhaएं, agyanta or paap, these three things, material desires, agyanta, no knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and sin. These are the three things which make an endless chain. They make an endless chain so that the jiva is entangled in this material world. So we should avoid that. And that was the thing which just came to my mind on reading this about Kunti Maharani. And about hearing this Kunti Maharani's thing. And Kunti Maharani's, there's one very beautiful shloka which is says that, what's that shloka? त्वयि मे अन्य विषयात् मतिर मधुपते सकृत रतिमुद्वता अद्दा गंगे गौम उदन्मति. Like that's a beautiful prayer by Kunti Maharani. She says, त्वयि मे अन्य विषयात्, I should not be having my focus on some different or material things. त्वयि मे अन्य विषयात् मतिर मधुपते सकृत, I should always have my mind focused on your Madhu, on the Madhusudan. I should have my mind focused on Madhu, Madhupate Sakrit, Rati Mudvata Adda. I should have that desire, I should have the inner desire, Rati Mudvata Adda, Gange Gauma Udanmati. My focus should be in the same manner, it should be in the same way as Ganga. When it comes out from Gomukha, when the Ganga comes from the Himalayas, what the aim of Ganga is to go and meet the ocean, to meet the Ganga Sagar. So Ganga, main focus, there are so many obstructions in the way. There are so many trees, so many plants, so many rocks coming up, so many mountains coming up. But what is the focus of Ganga? It has to go and meet the Sagar. It has to go and meet the ocean. So similarly, I should be focused in such a manner. There may be so many of distresses, so many of problems, so many of pidas coming in my life, but I should be focused so that I can, concentrate on the lotus feet of yours. That she's asking Lord Krishna, Lord Madhusudana. So here also, Kunti, after, because she was, a pure devotee of the Lord, and so she is here asking, and she is telling that, that, after hearing that Yadu dynasty is finished, it's disappeared, she is also engaging in devotional service with full attention, and thus gained release from the course of material existence. So she also get released from the material existence. Hare Krishna. So we go on to the shloka number now, 34.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mata.
Prabhuji, small jigyasa is there. Jaise we are living in this material world.
Yes,
So
Mataji.
we are a grahastha also. So we have some necessities of life. Like we need some money also because we are grahastha to
Correct.
survive our family and all. Our
Yeah.
children are not settled. Or some other problems are there. So how can we relate, or how can we associate this in devotional service? Like, I know that we cook food, so we prepare food for Lord first. We have house, so we can offer this for kirtan and all. So these are the small things, but in bigger things we see that like mind is not settled because children are not settled. We financial problem is there. So how can we relate this in bhakti? How can we transfer this in bhakti?
And that's a very nice question, Mataji. Can we just finish this? Then we will take it at the end of the class.
Yes,
that's a very nice question. In the meantime, it will also help my subconscious mind to think over it and give the answer.
Yeah,
and there
sure,
are,
Prabhuji.
Yeah, so we will discuss on that. Okay. 1:15:34. Yaya hrada buho bharam tam tanum vijaya aja kanta kantakam kantake neva dhyanam chapis sanam. Okay. Translation: the Supreme Unborn Lord Shri Krishna caused the members of the Yadu dynasty to relinquish their bodies, and thus he relieved the burden of the world. This action was like picking out a thorn with a thorn, though both are the same to the controller. Can somebody read the purport, please?
Yeah, I'll read, Prabhuji. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur suggests that the rishis like Sunaka and others who were hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sutta Goswami at Naimisharanya were not happy to hear about the Yudus dying in the madness of intoxication. To give them relief from this mental agony, Sutta Goswami assured them that the Lord caused the members of the Yadu dynasty to relinquish their bodies, by which they had to take away the burden of the world. The Lord and his eternal associates appeared on earth to help the administrative demigods in eradicating the burden of the world. He therefore called for some of the confidential demigod to appear in the Yadu family and serve him in his great mission. After the mission was fulfilled, the demigods, by the will of the Lord, relinquished their corporal bodies by fighting amongst themselves in the madness of intoxication. The demigods are accustomed to drinking the sonorous beverage, and therefore the drinking of wine and intoxication are not unknown to them. Sometimes they were put into troubles for indulging in intoxication. Once the son of Kuruva fell in the wrath of Narada for being intoxicated, but afterwards they regained their original forms by the grace of the Lord Sri Krishna. We shall find this story in the 10th canto. For the Supreme Lord, both the Asuras and the demigods are equal, but the demigods are obedient to the Lord, whereas the Asuras are not. Therefore, the examples of picking out a thorn by another thorn is quite befitting. One thorn which causes pinpricks on the leg of the Lord is certainly disturbing to the Lord, and the other thorn which takes out the disturbing elements certainly gives service to the Lord. So although every living being is a part and parcel of the Lord, still one who is pinprick to the Lord is called an asura, and the one who is voluntary savior of the Lord is called the devata or demigod. In the material world, the devatas and asuras are always contending, and the devatas are always saved from the hands of the asuras by the Lord. Both of them are under the control of the Lord. The world is full of two kinds of living beings, and the Lord's mission is always to protect the devatas and destroy the asuras. Whenever there is such a need in the world, and to go and to do good to both of them. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So see, the doubt which we like, if you read the previous shloka, the doubt which comes to our mind, that why Yadu dynasty was completely wiped out by Krishna's arrangement. So that also is explained here. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur suggests that the rishis like Saunaka and others who are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sutta Goswami at Naimisharanya were not happy to hear that the Yadus dying in madness of intoxication. So that also is very nicely explained by Srila Prabhupada in the purport, that the Lord and his eternal associates appeared on the earth to help the administrative demigods in eradicating the burden of the world. To help the administrative demigods in eradicating the burden of the world. So, the Yadu dynasty were there to wipe out the people who were the demons on the earth. So once that, the job was finished, that means they had nothing to do on the earth. So the Lord had already made the arrangement that they will go along with him back, so and to serve him in his eternal abode. So Prabhupada has very nicely mentioned like how a thorn with us helps you to take out another thorn which is in your body, which is pricked in your leg. So, and Prabhupada has mentioned that one of the thorn is devatas and another thorn is an asura. So which is giving trouble to the Lord is asura, and the one which is helping out to the helping out Lord to remove that thorn which is pricked in his leg. It's very nicely explained. So that is a devata, and that's basically mentioned in this. And both of them, the asuras as well as the devatas, they are equal to the Lord. Lord also wants the asuras to become devatas. So we have seen this. Like an example is also mentioned that Kuvera's son, Manigriv, and what was the name? Does anybody remember the name? The two sons of Kubera.
Manigriv and
Manigriv and
Nalgriv and this one. Manigriv and
Malakuver.
Nalakuber. Yes. Manigriv and Nalakuber. So these two were also, they were intoxicated, and because of the intoxication, they got the what you call from Narada. They were chastised by Narada, and then Narada also gave them shrap that they go and be like they be as trees in the courtyard of Krishna's home. So this is how it is. So how was that? Just to get an atonement and to get themselves purified and realize. So even the asuras, they can become devatas by the mercy of Lord, and after they have done the atonement, they have changed themselves. So in the material world also, you'll find the people who are devotees and who are non-devotees. Non-devotees doesn't mean that they are asuras. Non-devotees, we have to train them, we have to make them realize, we have to make them understand the dualities to which they are going, and then they also gradually become devotee. So this is what's mentioned in this purport. And so we'll go to the next one, which is shloka number 35. Shloka number 35. Yata matsyadi rupani dhate jayat yatha nata bhubhara bhubhara shapita yena jahau tatcha kalevaram. Can somebody read the translation
Yes.
and the purpose?
Yes, Prabhu. The Supreme Lord relinquished the body which he manifested to diminish the burden of the earth. Just like a magician, he relinquishes the one body to accept different ones, like the fish incarnation and others. The Supreme Lord, personality of the Godhead, is neither impersonal nor formless, but his body is non different from him, and therefore he is known as the embodiment of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. In the Brahad Vaishnav Tantra, it is clearly mentioned that anyone who considers the forms of Lord Krishna to be made of the material energy must be ostracized by all means. And if by chance the face of such an infidel is seen, one must clean himself by jumping in the river with his clothing. The Lord is described as Amrit or deathless because he has no material body. Under the circumstances, Lord's dying or quitting the body is like the jugglery of a magician. The magician shows by his tricks that he is cut to pieces, burnt to ashes, or made unconscious by hypnotic influences, but all are false shows only. Factually, the magician himself is neither burnt to ashes, nor cut to pieces, nor is he dead or unconscious at any stage of his magical demonstration. Similarly, the Lord has his eternal forms of unlimited variety, of which the fish incarnation, as was exhibited within this universe, is also one. Because there are innumerable universes somewhere or other, the fish incarnation must be manifesting his pastimes without cessation. In this verse, the particular word dhati, eternally accepted, and not the word Dhetva, accepted for the occasion, is used. The idea is that the Lord does not create the fish incarnation. He eternally has such a form, and the appearance and disappearance of such an incarnation serves particular purposes. In Bhagavad Gita 7.24 and 25, the Lord says, the impersonalists think that I have no form, that I am formless, but at present I have accepted a form to serve a purpose, and now I am manifested. But such speculators are factually without any sharp intelligence, though they may be good scholars in the Vedic literatures, but they are practically ignorant of my inconceivable energies and my eternal forms of personality. The reason is that I reserve the power of not being exposed to the non devotees of my mystic curtain. The less intelligent fools are therefore unaware of my eternal form, which is never to be vanquished and is unborn. In the Padma Puran, it is said that those who are envious and always angry at the Lord are unfit to know the actual and eternal form of the Lord. In the Bhagavatam also, it is said that the Lord appeared like a thunderbolt to those who were restless, Shishupala, at the time of being killed by the Lord, who were restless, Shishupala, at the time of being killed by the Lord, could not see him as Krishna, being dazzled by the glare of Brahmajyoti. Therefore, the temporary manifestation of the Lord as a thunderbolt, or the restless appointed by Kamsa, or the glaring appearance of the Lord before Shishupala were relinquished by the Lord. But the Lord is, as a magician, is eternally existent and is never vanquished by any circumstance in any circumstance. Such forms are temporarily shown to the Asurs only, and when such exhibitions are withdrawn, the Asurs think that the Lord is no more existent. Just as the foolish audience thinks that the magician to be burned to ashes or cut to pieces. The conclusion is that the Lord has no material body and therefore he is never to be killed or changed by his transcendental body. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So it's talking about Lord's personal form, and about the people they're thinking about. The Lord is formless. So these things are mentioned in this sloka, and this reminds me of the Leela of Narsimhadev. So Narsimhadev, when he appeared, when he appeared, what was the first reaction of Hiranyakashipu? He was a demon. So what was the first reaction? He said, what kind of a living being it is? Because it is neither a human being nor an animal. So asuras, they will always think that what kind of thing, what kind of material thing is that. They will try to understand from their material knowledge what they have gained. But a devotee, he will always see that, he will see, in a material thing also, he will see the presence of Lord. So for Prahlad Maharaj, when Narsimhadev appeared, he knew that this is a Lord himself. At the same time, the thinking of an demon is, he will always, even if the Lord appears in front of him, he will see what kind of thing is this, what kind of material thing is that. So the thought process of a devotee and a demon is that a demon will always think from the material aspects, whereas a devotee will always think from the spiritual aspects. And the devotee will always connect. He will always connect the material thing, even if they are material things, he will always connect that to Krishna, that this is arrangement of Krishna, this is the Leela of Krishna, this is how what comes to the mind of the devotees. So with this, don't have anything else to add. There are so many important points in this purpose, which we have to read time and again, so that our faith becomes the foundation of our spiritual life, our spiritual endeavor, and our trend to follow and go ahead with in our bhakti. So please, requesting everybody to read this purpose time and again. This will also help us. When I was reading it, I don't get much of time, but when I was reading this purpose, it was so amazing, and always there were so many of realizations which were coming to me, and these connections of the leelas what we have heard, they are kind of a triggering when you read this type of purpose of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Now, just to wrap up with the question that Mataji had asked for, Mataji, which Suniti Mataji, which question she asked, it's very difficult. I'm going through the phase. It's not that easy that, it's better said than done. It is not that way. It is really difficult to be connected with our sadhana or with our devotional practices, whatever we are doing, at whatever level we are doing. It's very, very difficult, but we shouldn't leave. We should have the very profound faith. We should have profound faith in Krishna that whatever he is doing good for us. We have to do prayas. We have to do the prayers. We have to do the bhakti. So I was hearing one of the lectures of Sevani Mataji. And in that, it was basically based on the prayers. How do we pray? And does that mean that we become, kind of a person like, okay, everything depends on Krishna, we don't do any work? So this is basically, the concept a person will immediately take, that, okay, I will do only prarthana, Krishna will take care of this. So it is not that. So even if we see from the Damodar Leela, we have to do the prayas and Kripa will come from Krishna. But our contemplation is always that whatever I am thinking, that should happen. We don't think that what Krishna wants. We think that what I want. So again, it's our bodily concept that I want this kind of arrangement. I want this. I want this. Whereas Krishna has better arrangement. So usually there is a saying that man proposes, God disposes. But actually the thing is, man proposes, the God, he has a better proposal than what a man is thinking. So this is what I can say. It's not that easy that a person can like always say that okay, God is taking care of this. God is definitely taking care of the devotees. He has a special arrangement for the devotees. He always takes care of the devotees. They're in comparison to the non-devotees, definitely. But the thing is that we have to have a very strong faith, and we have to rely on Lord's arrangement. Times are challenging. Many times it does happen that a person he's Lord is putting up in such situations. So on the contrary of neglecting or what you call trying to find out ways to go in different direction, it's better to be with devotees, share your thoughts with devotees, discuss with devotees, and then pray and do prayers. So Sevani Mataji was saying that you have to do भक्ति आपको ऐसे कि आपको प्रार्थना ऐसे करनी है जैसे भगवान पे सब निर्भर है. आपको प्रार्थना ऐसे करनी है जैसे सब भगवान पे निर्भर है. आपको प्रयास ऐसे करना है जैसे सब आप पे निर्भर है. So you have to put 100% of your efforts and leave 100% of the results on Lord. So this is what I can share on this. If somebody else has some other points, please do share. This is very important topic, and prayers, they make wonders. That's what I can say. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, एक point I would like to add. I mean, these are kind of common questions कि अगर भगवान है तो भगवान हम लोग को देना चाहिए, एंड अगर वो देता है तो भगवान है, अदरवाइज नहीं है, सॉर्ट ऑफ. एंड देन इफ भगवान है, अगर वो दे रहा है तो फिर मुझे काम करने की क्या जरूरत है. दीज आर द काइंड ऑफ that generally come up. But so meaning these questions are in a way answered by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So the 3rd chapter, when Arjun asks him, right, that why are you engaging me in this warfare, why should I fight, sort of, so he has his own reasons, but Krishna structures his answer in kind of 4 different perspectives through until the 35th verse of the 3rd chapter. So in the first section, from 2nd to 9th verse, he talks about Nishkam Karma Yoga, meaning you have to perform your action. Nahi kartu kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karma krut. One cannot avoid action even for a single moment. So action has to be performed. There is no alternative to it. One has to do it. Now, if you are supposed to perform action, then you can decide what should be your mentality while performing the action. So for that, he talks about Nishkam Karma Yoga as the first option, wherein you perform your action without expecting any result. Then comes Sakam Karma Yoga, where he talks about performing action with expectation of result. Then he talks about another 3rd perspective, which is from verse number 17 till 20, of which the 18th verse is significant there. He says, Naiva tasya krute nartho na krute neha kaschana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaschidartha vyapashraya. He says, a person who is self-realized, he has no purpose to fulfill while performing his duties. He does not have any reason also not to perform such work. So meaning I don't have any purpose to do certain work, but he says that there is an additional perspective here. There is no reason not to do that work also. So when we are supposed to perform the work and we are saying कि यार मिला तो मिला, भगवान की देन है, अगर देना है तो देगा, so then ठीक है, then why are you not performing your activity anyway if you are not attached to your results? So that is that 3rd perspective, which is quite important, and not many people actually take it from that perspective कि अगर भगवान है, अगर आपको देने वाले हैं, So that does not stop you from performing your activities. So that I thought was another perspective to answer Mataji's question.
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhu, for this detailed explanation with the shlokas.
So Mataji, does that answer your question, or
Yeah, sure. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Subal Prabhuji and Uddhava Prabhuji, Preshtha Prabhuji. I got my answer, because we need to pray only, and we have to surrender to God from the heart.
At the same time, we have to do our duties.
Yeah,
Like
duties.
duties we have to do, because of course we are not attached to the results. That if you are attached to the results, that also has been explained, that if you are attached to the results, then then you will again, if there is a duality, you will be suffering, because the result, if you are attached to the results, you always think that, okay, I want outcome of this, my work in such a manner, and it will not happen, because Lord's arrangement is something different. As I said, that Lord has a better proposal. So what will be the outcome? Maybe, for example, if you are trying to get 100 dirhams out of the work what we are doing, and Lord, and you are expecting 100 dirhams, and if you're not getting 100 dirhams, you're getting 20 dirhams or 30 dirhams, you'll get upset. But if Lord has arrangement that He wants to give you 150 dirhams, so that is unknown. So what you have to be in such a situation. You have to do your duties, leave the results to the Lord, and at the same time, whatever you get it, whether you get it or not, that also is another thing. You have to leave it. You have to forget about that. You have to perform your duty. So you have to do the duty without waiting for the results, without even thinking about the results. So then the question might come up that if there is no expectation, how can we perform? Isn't it?
Yeah, but our duties are to give our 100% or 110% in the bhakti.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so
much.
much. Thank you so much for
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
us. Any question anybody has? मौका मिला है, छोड़ना मत प्रभु को.
हाँ, वही मैं बोला, सुबलार्थ को छोड़ना मत.
वो अनफॉर्चुनेट मौका उनको एवरी टाइम मिलता है प्रभु.
हरे कृष्णा.
Okay, any question anybody, or shall we close the class today? नहीं? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. श्री प्रभुपाद की जय. सभी भक्तों की जय. हरे कृष्णा.
उद्धव पृष्ठ प्रभु की जय.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.